Guys, you're looking at some amazing images. These are just 4 days old, and they're satellite images from 300 miles above our planet. And they're showing us Lake Mead, and in this particular image is a landmark that we know as Temple Bar Marina. Now, it is, again, setting in a very narrow area. This bow shape, and I know when I pull this up, again, it's 300 miles out, it pixelates. But the bow shape here is not a landmark. It's a row of tires that help stop the waves coming in off the lake and slamming into the marina. Now, again, it's fuzzy, but what I want to point out, guys, is this is the outlet now, right here. You can't get out this side on maybe a canoe or a paddleboard, but the depth is too low now as the reservoir is dropped at 1043 plus. And the boats are coming out of this side of the marina and headed this way. Now, there's a problem there. We're going to get into it. We're going to look at some older images. We're going to look at some close-ups and some more satellite images, so just hang in there. Now, you're looking at a still image from a webcam live this afternoon at Temple Bar Marina, and it's looking out over the section that we just looked at from space, and this is the bow shape. It's a floating, basically, section of tires that are anchored down, and it stops the heavy waves. A couple of things to point out here. There's a sandbar. Maybe you can see it here that was not really sticking up out of the water June 1st. But this is that small outlet right here that you saw the boat coming out of. And we're looking over what's called, right here is called the Temple. It looks like a structure, but it's part of a butte system. And it's called Temple Butte, and that's where Temple Bar got its name. But again, we're looking in this direction. We're looking, I think they have this kind of right in the middle, or the camera right in the middle of possibly a houseboat rental section, which will come into play very quickly as we get into this video. But again, we're looking out into the lake, and the lake is more or less moving to the left, and there's just a narrow outlet now. That's important. Why? This marina, as well as Colville, that's closer to the dam and on the other side of the reservoir itself, they have similar problems. And one is, again, this is a very good representation of the current situation, guys. Up here where I have this marker is where the Temple Bar and the restaurant and all were, and they were basically a lakefront view restaurant at that time. And this section is called Ladder Cove, and you can go back and look at some of the images. But now all of this is very much closer to the water, back down here into this area. Check it out. It takes a minute to download the images. So we've got the webcam looking from this marina section out, and we're seeing the opening, the only one left. Now, the problem with that is the lake's at 1043, say 0.4. And one of the problems we're about to see, both, I think, here and at Colville across the reservoir, is the fact that we're approaching 1040. We're 3 feet plus away from that. And we're looking at maybe between 14 and 20 days before 1040 happens. Now, the Bureau of Reclamation has said that at 1040, a few things happen. The low head dam pressure changes, all of that, right? We're getting ready for 1035. But at 1040, there's sections of this outlet and at Colville that are what they call basically the edge of the system. And if it gets down, this water, another 3 feet, it'll be at 1040. And there will be no outlet even for the small boats at that time. Not much of one at all, because you're going to be basically stranded in this section. Now, you can tell some of the areas here where it's not as deep. But what is happening if you look at the math on this, guys, and you've got big houseboats here that weigh, some of them weigh tons and tons, 30, 40, and up to 60 footers. And the draw on those big boats is 3.5 to 4.5 feet as we stand, and they don't have but 3.4 feet to get out if they left now. And there's a bunch of boats, guys. So what you're looking at is they're trapped. How you're not going to be able to get out that way. They're too large to crane out with crumbling infrastructure that's basically the ramps they built is now getting into the section of the water, especially at 1040, to where it drops off too quick to extend anything much further other than a floating sidewalk. And so we're going to start seeing the insurance companies panic, because you've got a rental fleet of houseboats there, and these multi-million-dollar yachts or basically houseboats are heavily insured. But there's a clause in the insurance agency's information and on the contracts that at a certain level, especially 1040, if you have not moved your boat out of here or Colville or any other marina at that warning time, your policy is dropped. Then you become your own insurer. You understand what I'm saying? And this, we're looking at the technical data for the entire world just because they're watching me, but for you folks that are there, from here to Flaming Gorge to Powell, this is going to end up happening if you're not careful. So you've got all of these big boats. There's no way to get them out now. There's no way to hoist them out. It would take millions of dollars if you could even get the equipment in there. And then you've got hundreds of boats. Now, let's just look at a little bit of history. Let's go back. Now, this was very close to the time Lake Mead was getting full, but this was the beginning of Temple Bar in the early 1950s, guys. It's a floating wooden shack with, lift-up doors for drinks or whatever on a couple of pontoons and a very nice antique boat setting over here, probably a harbor master, whatever. And he's he got anchored out here, probably got some underwater plumbing, but he's got his power grid run coming off the dirt bank, or the rock bank here, right up there and into his house. You had to move then, you got to move now. But it was a completely different situation in the 50s. I just wanted to show you this. And guys, go back 6 years. This is a thumbnail from RVer TV. I've watched his videos there on YouTube. But it's Lake Mead at Temple Bar, guys, in 2020. Look at the difference. You still had some tires out here, but you had so much width around it. And look at where you could park. Now, all of this is way out here, guys, and again, getting shallower by the day. It's amazing how quickly things can change, and it's been doing it for a few years. Now we are at that critical point. Now, to me, this is an amazing image because I've never seen it. And I've never been to Lake Mead. I've been to the Grand Canyon, but I've never been over there. But this is Temple Bar Marina right up here. This was when Lake Mead was full. Look at how big the area was. Here's your beginning of the boat ramp that's way down here now. And look at how many boats it could handle. Restaurants up here was the Temple Bar Marina and all. This is, I think, one of their pages. They have different, I don't know if it's Facebook or what it is. But again, look at that very beautiful cold water. And looks like paradise, doesn't it? Road running right along the water, vegetation growing, and a very high boat ramp that now is, again, much further out. I think from about that point down is about 1 kilometer from where the boat ramp is, looking at the maps and using the measuring tool, just to give you an idea. And this also is a few years back. And here, again, you're looking at the buttes here. To the left is what they call the Temple Butte. And you can see the lake was higher. Again, the beautiful marina there. And, again, some of the tire structure out there. Now, all of this is pushing in very quickly. And again, the big boats are stuck. Now, what does that mean? We don't know what's going through the marina owners' minds, either here at Temple Bar or with our friends at Flaming Gorge up there. But when you get to this situation, they moved 2 or 3 times. And you're talking about $1 million probably project at a time, because they have to hire deep divers because of the anchoring. That has to be moved. The underwater cabling and pipes, all that has to be moved. They have to hire tow services. They have to break this thing apart now, especially if they were going to try to get it through that narrow opening that doesn't look much over 100 feet wide. So you've got possibly 12 to, at the max, 20 days before you're not going to get out of here if the numbers are right. And the bureau number of 1040 is popping up. That is the cliff. That is where most of the marinas will have to be either shut down or really scaled down to a great degree. Now, so again, we talked about that we're possibly going to see some people vacate homes and stuff in the desert Southwest. If you don't have power and water, it's kind of hard to live there. And it's even harder to sell that property. So there's going to be some financial collapse from that. Now, you tie that into the insurers group of all of these marinas, not only the rental fleets, but the individual owners of some of the giant boats. Guys, they're going to take an immediate impact also. Again, their clause is it's on you if you don't get your boat out in the warning time, and that warning time is 3.4 feet away and not much many days left. So my point is, have we seen the last move from a couple of these places? Is that now they're seeing the reality, and it's a shame looking at the beautiful old pictures and these, but they're said the reality. I mean, if I was an owner, I'm 70, I've owned some things, but if you were sitting there and said, I moved this thing a couple of times, it cost me $1 million, and now each time or more, and now I'm facing it again, and maybe in a few months again, and there's no way to recoup the losses. Can't get the boats out from land or by the lake. It's almost impossible to absorb the financial loss of the movement. Will we start to see, as the waters recede, dry marinas? Because it's just economically infeasible to continue to do what we're doing. If that happens, guys, it would definitely be a sign of changes coming as far as population movement, jobs, and all of that. And so that's what I wanted to focus on Mead for a moment. Again, Colville, which we'll take a look at from 300 miles also and move across the reservoir. But it is in a similar condition. And it is in a, right here at Lake Powell, even though it's narrow, it is a little bit deeper. Now, when you get across the reservoir to Colville, it's a wider area to get out of, but it's kind of on a shallower plateau, so they're facing the same 1040 problems. Now again, Vegas is to the left here, and right here is Hoover Dam, guys. Right here, when you see the videos of people coming down here and looking at the tall penstocks where everything comes in, they're pulling up to here. You can't get past the buoys. You can't do that, and then this is downriver. But it looks large there, doesn't it? But when you back out, that's probably some of the smallest areas, but deepest in the entire reservoir. But let's go across. Again, we were over here all the way. This is a little big place, guys. This is over at Temple. But here's Colville. Look at the same problems they're having. They've had to move their boat ramps out from up in this area, just like we saw at Temple. And right here, looks like they have very similar barriers up, again, to break the waves from when you get a lot of wind coming across Lake Mead. It'll sink a boat, guys. But it looks like their path is on the opposite side if you look at the boats. Again, it's really grainy. This is a free version, and I think if you pay for it, you may get a better optics. But right now, we can deal with this. Anyway, you got your different your different piers on the marina, your floating walkway, all of that. But this right here, this is a little wider, this area, but it's just as shallow. That shows it going out. You can see what would have to happen. If they move Caldwell, you really can't move it much further past this, or you're going to be out in much more current with not much anchorage. And then again, it's because the river's at such a fast drop, or the reservoir is, it just would be another move. It's like a game of leapfrog over the last several years, but right now they're kind of out of lily pads, if you understand what I'm saying, guys. They, moved all the way down these big valleys. You see the very tall boat ramps here, and you can see them in some of the YouTubers' videos that cover Mead. But again, we've got cavitation problems at Powell. The flows are being changed between Flaming Gorge and Powell and between Powell and Mead. And what we're talking about here is added factors. I showed you a graph about a linear model of Mead going down to 1040, then 1035, and then a nonlinear model. When I showed you that, we did not have a high pressure zone that's going to break records building up right over the area at over 600 DM, guys, and it was originally up to about 597. And that is pressure pushing down on the surface of this water. That could be some of the reason we're seeing the cavitation problems at Powell. That is the most critical point right now, because if they have to do anything, and what actually they're doing, they are trying to get as much from upstream as they can right now. They want to keep that water level beyond a cavitation point and also be able to keep Powell up some and supply some to Mead. It's kind of an impossible balancing act. Now, for the boat owners there and the marina owners, plus everyone watching the Lake Mead episode unfold, then we put together another graph. You've seen these a couple of times, just putting in all the variables. This one included what we're looking at here, the heat dome and funnel plus upstream cuts added to the other variables like increased temperature, increased evaporation rates. And of course, you got to figure in if Powell's going to delete output and things like that, or lower output, all of that put in. But if we stay where we're at now in a linear position, you notice right here is 1040, 1035 would be 1 foot below this, but 1040 is what we're looking at right now. And you're looking at 15 days out, us hitting 1040. That's the nonlinear. In other words, heat is still building. We're seeing manipulations trying to balance Mead and Powell. And again, that high pressure, guys, that we're looking at building over the Rockies, that's going to spread by the 13th. It's going to be a furnace across the U.S. I just hope you realize that. And that's going to put tremendous stress on our grids and your AC. Again, the 15 days out, we're going to be right at that 1040 level. It starts to decrease pressure on the turbines at Lake Mead also. 1040, you got less water on top. It's not pushing down as hard. Now, if it stays completely linear, the way we did it in the blue line here, got 22 days out. Still, looking at as far as moving the boats, the financial thing would be unbelievable. The logistics would be unbelievable. I checked, and most of those boats are not full of fuel, and the marinas don't have enough to massively fill every one of them at any given moment. And you think about, you got maybe 100-foot opening there, very shallow, that if you had a grounding, you're going to kind of block the exit. Just things like that can fit into it, but it does not look to me like right now, I may be wrong, that they have enough time to break apart the marinas. Again, you're going to use underwater divers, you're going to use expensive towing vehicles to move things, to move the platform, to move the boats. Now, they'll tell the boat owners to come get your stuff, like the ones you can put on a trailer and stuff like that. But the larger ones, it's completely different. There's no longer a concrete ramp at the bottom that will handle a large load of a big boat. They've got some steel matting that they use, but if you're looking at over 16,000 pounds, which these boats and these big trailers are, it'll sink those mats in the feet of that mud. You would never get out. Now, if you had a month or two, it may be a better outlook. But guys, we could be looking at 15 days to hit that rock bottom, and we may already be there. That's my point. We got 3.4 feet to get out of right now, and some of the boats are drawing 4.5 feet. The math does not work out. Even the smaller, larger group of houseboats draw 3.5 feet. So you're going to drag bottom. You're going to pull off all your filters, all your depth finders, anything like that, anything on the bottom, and it's going to be a disaster. And they may have waited too late. They may have under-anticipated the drop, looking at linear scales and some timelines that were set up by certain bureaus for 2027. You guys wouldn't be caught off like that because we cover it, and we cover it with the correct information. Again, guys, I'm not going to draw it out. I just wanted to come in here with this update. Watch the weather coming in. We are on the 7th, guys. We've got 5 or 6 days until it really gets tough. You think it's hot now? Just wait till then, but be prepared. You can't get out in it. You're going not to just hot. You're going to have to go into survival mode. Start planning for it. Guys, we love you. Our Father loves you. It's a major heads up. And remember, if you're subscribed, unsubscribe and subscribe back to the channel. Also, the new YouTube channel, the new BP Earthwatch channel, is called the Sumerian History channel. I'll link it. It's got the new Enoch video in it that you asked about that I had to move to Patreon. Now it's back on YouTube, and it's a totally separate channel, so we won't have a conflict there. Again, the Sumerian History channel. The first Enoch video is up and waiting, so when you get there, help us out. It will help us a lot. It's to subscribe, guys, to the new channel, the new History channel. If you like that type of information, again, and you like the data, you got 2 different places to go. And if you don't like either one, you can go to the other one, right? Anyway, guys, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.